Welcome, everyone. The prompt for our welcome and connecting breakout room is a habitual thought event of my type is ... At the beginning, this is me, Ingrid Hurwitz. For those of you who don't know me, I run an international Enneagram Association accredited Enneagram school called Trance there, and I run courses, most specifically practitioner training courses. So one is trauma-informed Enneagram coaching as a full certificate. The other one that I often offer is team effectiveness facilitation, trauma-informed team effectiveness work. So a lot of the talks I've given are on my YouTube channel. You can look that up. And if you want to get onto my mailing list, you can email nikki@takdir.co.za, which is how you will stay updated on when there are free events and talks. I run a lot of free events. So we do this one together, Renate and I. And then I have various other things, usually once a month, where I collaborate with other teachers and do some very cool stuff, all Enneagram related, but some of it working with trauma therapists and Egyptologists and people who work with nature. So there's some very cool stuff. So please feel free to get in touch. And I'm very big on building community. And I've got a wonderful alumni community of 5D students. We have case consults. We're actually having one tomorrow. So yeah, love to meet you. If you link up on my website, there's a chemistry link there if you'd like to connect. So today's topic, awakening from the trance of type. Let's start off with what a trance is. And I don't know what your associations with trance are. Some people think of trance in terms of their exposure to hypnosis, which is often stage hypnosis. Or they think of it in terms of a shamanic trance, which is a movement across a veil into another form of consciousness and other forms of knowing. But basically what characterizes trance is that it's a form of selective awareness, and it's also a form of selective responsiveness. So it's semi-hypnotic identification with one patterned mode of being. So what it does is it's selecting certain things, filtering other things out, and putting us into a certain state with a certain repertoire of behavior. So that's kind of the more or less formal definition of type. The importance of this is that the state that we're in determines how we see the world. So we don't see the world as it is, we see it as we are. So when we're in a trance, we're in a particular state, and we're seeing the world from within that state. And we know that from the traumatology science, state changes story, and story follows state. So depending on how we are in the here and now, we're making up a story about how the world is, how other people are, about our life, our worth, and we're constructing a whole reality based on how we are experientially in our body and emotionally. Things look very different from within different states of being, and we're going to expand on this a bit more. What also occurs is that our brain is making predictions based on what we've learned in the past. So all of these factors link together to say we're not really here. We're not really in the here and now. We are walking around partially in a trance state based on how our nervous system is, and partially in a trance state of the predictions that our brain is making about what's going on and what we need to do. So this is quite counterintuitive. And I'm going to play you a little video clip by a woman named Lisa Feldman Barrett. She's a very, very famous neuroscientist, and her work is intriguing me a lot at the moment because it's helping me to understand Enneagram Type as a certain kind of patterned prediction error, that we're actually making prediction errors all the time. We're anticipating what's going on based on our filters, what our brain already knows, and we're predicting what's going to happen next based on the past. So we're not actually here. And Tom Condon, his work, and I've worked with him for a long time, said something that really, really made me think. And I've been thinking in terms of this for a long time and working with clients in terms of this for a long time. Our type is a defense against the past. Like, if you let that sink in as an understanding of Enneagram Type, it's quite mind-altering, and it alters our way of working with the client to understand that the way they're walking around, the way they're acting, the way they're leading, the way they're responding to authority is a defense against the past, a defense against what happened to them when they were little, pre-verbally, that they learned to cope with through a certain defensive stance. So I'm going to play this, a tiny piece of this Lisa Feldman Barrett interview about this brain prediction thing that is actually completely mind-blowing.
Like this, it's very counterintuitive. So the way to describe it is to say that your brain doesn't react to things in the world. It's not, to us, it feels like our eyes are windows on the world. We see things, we hear things, we react to them. In psychology, we call this stimulus response. So your face is your voice is a stimulus to me. I receive input and then I react to it. And I might react very automatically, system one. But I also might execute some control where I maybe stop myself from saying something or doing something, and in a more reflective way, execute a different action, right? That's system two. The way the brain works, though, is it's predicting all the time. It's constantly talking to itself, constantly talking to your body, and it's constantly predicting what's going on in the body and what's going on in the world, and making predictions. And the information from your body and from the world really confirm or correct those predictions.
So fundamentally, the thing that the brain does most of the time is just like talking to itself and predicting stuff about the world, not like this dumb thing that just senses and responds,
Yeah. So the way to think about it is like this. Your brain is trapped in a dark, silent box.
Yeah, that's very romantic of you.
Which is your skull, and the only information that it receives from your body and from the world, right, is through the senses, through the sense organs, your eyes, your ears, and you have sensory data that comes from your body that you're largely unaware of to your brain, which we call interoceptive, as opposed to exteroceptive, which is the world around you. But your brain is receiving sense data continuously, which are the effect of some set of causes. Your brain doesn't know the cause of these sense data. It's only receiving the effects of those causes, which are the data themselves. And so your brain has to solve what philosophers call an inverse inference problem. How do you know, when you only receive the effects of something, how do you know what caused those effects? So when there's a flash of light, or a change in air pressure, or a tug somewhere in your body, how does your brain know what caused those events so that it knows what to do next to keep you alive and well? And the answer is that your brain has one other source of information available to it, which is your past experience. It can reconstitute in its wiring past experiences, and it can combine those past experiences in novel ways. And so we have lots of names for this in psychology. We call it memory, we call it perceptual inference, we call it simulation. It's also, we call it concepts or conceptual knowledge. We call it prediction. Basically, if we were to stop the world right now, stop time, your brain is in a state and it's representing what it believes is going on in your body and in the world, and it's predicting what will happen next based on past experience, right? Probabilistically, what's most likely to happen. And it begins to prepare your action, and it begins to prepare your experience based, so it's anticipating the sense data it's going to receive. And then when those data come in, they either confirm that prediction and your action executes because the plan's already been made, or there's some sense data that your brain didn't predict that's unexpected, and your brain takes it in. We say encodes it. We have a fancy name for that. We call it learning. Your brain learns, and it updates its storehouse of knowledge, which we call an internal model, and so that you can predict better next time. And it turns out that predicting and correcting is a much more metabolically efficient way to run a system than constantly reacting all the time. Because if you're constantly reacting, it means you can't anticipate in any way what's going to happen. And so the amount of uncertainty that you have to deal with is overwhelming to a nervous system.
Metabolically costly. I like it.
And so what is a reflex? A reflex is when your brain doesn't check against the sense data, that the potential cost to you is so great, maybe because, your life is threatened, that your brain makes the prediction and executes the action without checking.
Yeah, but prediction's still at the core. That's a beautiful vision of the brain.
So let's take a minute to assimilate that, because there's a lot there, and it's a very different way of thinking about what's going on. And when we bring an Enneagram lens to it, I think it enriches the Enneagram, and the Enneagram helps us understand that. But to understand our type as a kind of habitual prediction error based on our past experience, based on what's familiar. So what she spoke about is that when we see things, we put together a prediction of what's going on based on the sense data, and that's based on our past experience. It's based on, okay, this looks familiar, it must mean that. But we can get it very wrong because it is based on the past, and it's a kind of shortcut. It's a heuristic to keep us safe. It's a rule of thumb. Like angry boss equals all hell's gonna break loose. No, angry boss means angry boss who had a bad day, he got negative feedback in his performance review, and he's a bit irritable. There's a world apart. So I'm currently working with a 612, and she's in this continuous state of all hell is about to break loose. So she left her previous job because of the politics and the drama, and she felt traumatized, and she couldn't deal with, she experienced all kinds of betrayal, and she speaks about those previous people as being very, very bad. And for the first few sessions, I was really like, wow, that's really toxic. And now I'm seeing the stories that she's telling about the current environment are the same. And she's construing small things, like this one didn't copy that one on the email. So he was irritated. In her mind, the prediction from these small bits of data is all hell's going to break loose. And in her 612, she is leaping into, she's got to manage all of it. She's got to fix it. She's got to handle it. She's got to speak to this one. She's going to get that one to feel okay. She's got to speak to her boss, and then she's got to check. She wrote this angry email. She's got to test with her boss. Should I send it? So she's creating a lot of noise in the system, trying to keep all hell from breaking loose, but the all hell was never going to break loose. This is the organizational culture. And yes, there are elements of it that are irritating, and people blindside each other, and they compete, and they take credit for each other's work. Just like in any organization, there are going to be people doing the Enneagram type with their blind spots. But for her, this is extremely dysregulating. And when she spoke to me about her childhood, her household was completely and utterly chaotic, and she had to keep things together. She was the oldest child. She was basically looking after her younger siblings. Her parents were both completely dysfunctional. She was trying to maintain order, and she's basically reenacting her childhood pattern in this system now. She's doing what she did in childhood. It just takes a different form. It just takes the form of an email, organizing, a process, driving this. I went back to the minutes, and in the minutes it said, not realizing that in most organizations, nobody cares about the minutes. That's not how things work. You know, you make an agreement, then you have a chat, then you do something, you know, and it's a complete misconstrual of reality based on her type, predicting the level of unsafety and chaos. And so now we need to change that. You know, we have to take the new data, which is reality, and we have to update her predictive system and to say, okay, well, what if you didn't try and fix that relationship? And for her, this is like, oh, I don't have to. That's not my parents fighting. My life is not at stake if those two people don't get along. And realizing there are a whole range of options other than what her automatic prediction was kind of dictating. So every type is making these prediction errors pretty much all the time and then acting on them, because small pieces of sensory information trigger the emergency bells. Do this. Like if a type 8 thinks they're being betrayed, they're going to go full on into type 8 mode, but it's on the basis of small pieces of data that are exaggerated. They're not actually seeing reality. They're responding to the fact that when they walked into a room, the person that was talking went quiet. They didn't go quiet because they were going to betray the 8. They went quiet maybe because they were talking about a very personal issue to someone very close to them. But that moment triggers a memory from the past where someone went suddenly quiet. And, you know, this is what's going on with our type. We're taking tiny cues and we're misreading them. And often these triggers are tacit. They're not obvious and they're not conscious. We don't think, oh dear, they went quiet, it must be. That trigger gets in under the radar of our conscious awareness. And these are called tacit triggers. And this is an important concept from the trauma literature, that you can be driving along and see a billboard. And on that billboard is a picture of somebody, and it's an advert for a certain kind of cologne, say. And you hardly notice it. But 3 seconds later, you're feeling really depressed or sick or something, and you haven't joined the dots. But when you start becoming aware of the tacit triggers, you think, oh dear, that was my first boyfriend's favorite cologne and whatever, you know, there are a bunch of negative associations, maybe something bad happened to him or something. But that kind of information is sense data that's triggering a state and a predictive state that you then want to do something about, and your type kicks in. So that's kind of what I think needs to be taken away from the Feldman-Barrett, is that our type is automatically filtering and selecting. And I always use this metaphor of the map to illustrate that. So the Enneagram is a map of maps, and we've each got a map, and it looks literally nothing like the other person's map of reality. So we're walking around with this map, and our map picks out these 10 things, and your map doesn't have any of my stuff on it. Your map's focused on totally different things. The Enneagram's 9's busy with the emotional weather, and the Enneagram 3 is like, we've got 10 minutes to get to the next point on the agenda, and can we move along? And they're very aware of sequence and time and timeline. And in the trance of 3, they've got a certain perception of time. Like they see time ahead of them. They understand milestones. If I say to Renate, something's happening on the 18th of June, her mind will go and have an understanding of the amount of time between now and then, what's possible to fit in, what needs to happen in what set of steps. For me, if someone says 18th of June, I kind of have a vague sense of a cloud of space, and I need to start thinking about that, but not right away. So my sense of time with a 7 and a 9 and a 4 is very fluffy and vague. And for me to plan a set of steps is extremely challenging. Whereas say for a 1-3-5 or a 6-1-2 is also, they're very good at planning and organizing. So knowing that your type is already projecting a certain filter onto reality. And Gurdjieff referred to our general Enneagram state as being asleep. That we're going along automatically, doing our type, doing our way of being in the world. We're very identified with our type. We think that's us. So we're mostly half asleep or fully asleep. He thought that we only have about 5 minutes of really awake in a lifetime, the average person. So if we really appreciate what's going on mentally and psychologically with our type, we really start to see that we're here in the here and now in actual relationship very little of the time. And that's not just a mental state that we could give a name, popcorn brain. It is a mental state, but it's also a full kinesthetic experience. So the more you understand about trauma, the more you understand that type is actually also kinesthetic and neuroaffective. There's a sensation in the body, there's bracing, there's certain kinds of tension. Enneagram 1s often feel their tension in their neck, jaw, and upper shoulders. There's armoring up. There's lassitude. There are various things that go along with being in our type, like a sense of helplessness. You know, for some of the types, like 9s, there's a sense of kind of, I can't. I'm in a dorsal vagal state. I feel like I can't get started. Even the thing that I really want to do, I feel I can't in my body. I noticed a long time ago, before I'd been in certain types of healing, that my arms felt very weak before needing to do certain types of things because of like a trauma response of incapacity, that it's dangerous to exercise agency. You're going to be humiliated. So if you're scared of humiliation, your brain's predicting humiliation, it's going to stop you. It's going to say, go weak. Go into your defense now. Now's the time to be weak. So these are for the 8s, it's now's the time to be tough. Now's the time to be big. Now's the time to be intimidating. And that's in the body. You know, when you're in the room with an 8, and they're powering up. The way they look at you, the way their body is, fills the room with a certain kind of energy. So us becoming aware of the trance of our type as a kinesthetic, mental, and neuroaffective state and stance helps us to see that these predictions have already kicked in a lot of the time. We're living within a prediction based on what we learned in childhood. So here's like a stereotype of an Enneagram 1. I've worked with a lot of Enneagram 1s whose parents were like a headmaster or a pastor in the army or something. So people that learn to stay in line, like a very religious parent, the strong authority figure is like, yes, sir. My whole being, my whole body, my whole way is a kind of, I'm in the right posture. I'm doing the right thing. There's a stiffness, and that gets sent out as an energetic field. So often if someone's in the trance of their one type, other people are going to feel like they're on eggshells, like, oops, I've done something wrong, because of that field that is being projected neuroaffectively, kinesthetically. We're very sensitive to each other's frequencies and energies. So that's how we get affected by somebody's type. We can feel their whole state emanating around them. So when we look at this from childhood, our learned states become a dispositional leaning. They become a dispositional orientation. Like, this is my default orientation. So my type can be seen as a default orientation, or in John Vervaeke's terms, he talks about a gripping tendency. And here he's talking about how I grip reality. So, you know, when you say to someone, oh, get a grip, which is really contemptuous and is not going to make the relationship good at all. Or when you say about someone, they haven't got a grip, you're basically saying they haven't got a grip on reality, right? It's a metaphor for having a grip on reality. A gripping tendency is our type's way of grappling with the world. What do I notice? What do I take hold of? What do I move? What do I do? And so this is something very, very learned, and it's the filter through which all novelty is processed. So, for example, here you've got a little child who spent tons and tons of time alone, keeping herself busy, you know, no one there to play with her. She got lost in her imagination. So maybe she's getting a 9 kind of experience of you know, not mattering, or a 4 kind of experience of invisibility, or maybe she's a 7 feeling very, very alone, that no one's really there, or 5, you don't know, but the childhood influence is going on, that's going to mean that her way of coping is going to look like her strategy for coping then. And here you've got a child who's very anxious and vigilant and scared. That person is going to then, you know, apply the same strategy later on. So here I just chose a picture of someone who's worried in their performance review. There's someone in relationship to a dangerous authority figure. What you often find is, you know, if you're working with a 6, they've projected authority onto this person as if they're huge. They don't click that actually this person is my size and their power is not actually that important. They're doing a job. They're being paid to do a job. They've got a set of skills. So do I. Yes, there's a reporting line, but that doesn't mean they're a dangerous father. So we're projecting a lot. And so there's the prediction, projection, action. So that's our type. And I'm saying that that's very, very much like a trance state, because there's a selective awareness, a selective responsivity, and we have a patterned response based on what's being filtered through our awareness. So I've got a slide here where I've listed the triggers for the types, and I got a little bit of input from people on how they see this. And I'd like to give you an opportunity to just look at your type and see if you can identify one of the triggers for your type here that resonates, like, yep, that's me. And notice, okay, just find one first. So has everyone found one that kind of works? It's like, oh shit, that's me. Okay. So now the invitation is to take yourself to a moment where that has been true, and take a small one, like a 3 out of 10. Don't take yourself to a huge, overwhelming one. Take yourself to a small example that comes to mind, or one that you've processed already, really, and reflect on the state that you went into when that happened. And I'm going to invite you to use this cyber model that I've got. Let me put it on a new slide to reflect on your triggered state. Those of you who've been in my courses and presentations know that I make slides on the fly. So here you are. So I invite you, in reflecting on the moment of when you were triggered, to take a moment first with the imagery in your mind. These are the aspects of experience here. Think of the imagery in your mind of when you were in that triggered state. So what were the thought events, like we practiced at the beginning? And what was the quality of your awareness? Did your mind race? Did it loop? Did it fragment? Did it shatter? Try and describe the quality of awareness. Did it freeze? So look at that. And that's a form of trance kicking in. It's a narrowing of your awareness, one way or another. And it's almost, what I'm wanting you to notice is it's almost a different person takes over when you go into your triggered state. That's when you really go into the full-on trance of your type. So what happened to your awareness? And then, if you can take yourself back to that moment, what happened physically? So think of your sensations. What was your skin feeling like? What was your weight feeling like? How was your breathing? So put yourself in that state, like I described, feeling weak. So that's a physical sensation. So just make a note about the physical sensation. Just a word or two. You can go back and repeat this in more detail. It's really helpful to do, because it does that thing of positive dissociation. Oh, these were the elements. Okay. And now the affect, which is psychology's name for feeling. Probably a lot of you know that. What were the emotions happening in that triggered state? And if it's hard for you to find a word, get beneath words to the phenomenology. Did my heart feel stabbed? Did it feel cracked? Did it feel tight? Try and get down to a physical word for your feelings, because emotions are a concept, like the word angry is a concept. Try and get to, my jaw is clenched, my blood was hot, that kind of stuff. Phenomenology, the phenomenology of the feeling. And then, what was the automatic behavior? And here, behind the scenes, we know that your childhood patterns were leading you to construe this event in a certain way and say, do this now. So what do this now happened based on that trigger? What was your reaction, your defensive reaction? Without self-judgment. And then the last corner, I'm sorry I'm rushing you a bit, because this is worth doing slowly. And in a coaching session, I'll go through this in detail with somebody. And then what happened to your mind? And then what thought event happened? And then what happened here? And how, I see you doing this. How does that feel? So we really want to go into detail on this at a raw phenomenological level. And then the meaning comes later. So this is the story that we start telling ourselves. So in my example that I've been working on here, the story is, I'm useless, I'm a failure. So out of that whole thing, the story that gets constructed around the state, around the trigger, is give up. So our clients are doing this all the time. They type triggering creates events that have these components. And the way that I illustrate it further on is that when we triggered, this whole thing gets scrambled up. An image in our mind, potentially, immediately triggers an overwhelming feeling, immediately triggers a behavior. It's all bypassed. Or it can be that a sound, like for PTSD, a car backfiring triggers an overwhelming panic, which automatically triggers hiding under the table. It was a car backfiring, but less than a second later, the person is hiding under the coffee table, because that sound triggered a feeling before they could even register it. The behavior had kicked in. Whereas when we are in an integrated state, it's called within state integration. We can notice the sound, notice the feelings, notice our heart rate, notice our flooding of affect, notice our skin. We're able to hold all of that and stay present and not go into the trance that puts us under the table. So that's a pretty extreme example. But a more minor example is the performance appraisal, where the person's not in a performance appraisal anymore. They're in their living room as a 6-year-old. So they're in the trance of their 6-year-old type that helped them to deal with danger. But they're bringing that whole prediction of what bad thing is going to happen into a performance review where actually they've done really well. And the boss gives them appreciative feedback, like, that was really great. But they struggle to take it in. I mean, I'm sure you've worked with people like this. They've gotten 100 points, data points of good feedback, and they still think they're screwing up. I worked with someone on Thursday. He's a type 1. Man, his people come to him after a presentation, high five, fist bump. That was amazing. His boss comes into his office, says, that was so great. But every time he gives a presentation, he's 100% convinced he's going to screw it up. Then he gives the presentation. He thinks, wow, I really messed that up. And then he gets all this amazing feedback. And there's this massive cognitive dissonance. Like, my prediction does not match reality. So the work becomes in the room to say, okay, let's talk with this part that tells you you're definitely going to screw this up, and the part that says, I definitely screwed that up. So then we did parts work and basically repurposed that inner critic. If I have some time, I'll talk about that a little bit, because it really works. So am I still showing my screen? No, let me go back to the slide. What slide are you seeing? The children? Yeah. So I hope you're getting the picture. When I speak about the trance of type, I'm saying we go into a certain state that filters things, that makes predictions, that says, do this now. And I wonder if it would be nice to get you into a breakout to maybe share with one another. I don't know if you've still got the same breakouts intact, Renate, to let people have a moment to talk about my trance of type has these features. So, and you can maybe just share one or two features. Like for me, my trance of type is a shattered awareness where I can't really see. It's almost like white light only, but in shards. So that for me is my trance of type creates that kind of frozen awareness. Fiona, before we go into the breakout room, you take your question or insight.
Thanks, Ingrid. There was a bullet point on the second last slide that you showed about how to work with it. Something about validate, something else, and don't pathologize. I was just wondering if you might be able to unpack that a little bit.
Yeah, I will. We're going to get to how to work with it
Okay.
After the breakout room. That's very key, because we don't want to criticize the type or the type strategy or the feelings, because we understand with deep compassion that this is a deployed strategy based on a past prediction of just how bad this event is. It might be completely misfitted, but that doesn't matter. It's valid in that person's reality. So yeah, we will get to that for sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's do, maybe you can make the breakouts a little bit short, a little bit smaller, like if we're going to maybe have pairs.
Okay.
And another 10 minutes, and people being able to share one feature of the trance of type. Like whether it might be a sensation, it might be my jaw gets tense, it might be my mind does this, it might be I get this churning, whatever it is. Just share one feature of your trance of type with someone in your breakout room. The person, sorry, in pairs. Welcome back. Okay, so what was it like for you to look at the trance of your type? Would anyone like to share with the group your type and one characteristic of the trance of your type when you're in a triggered state? Whether it's the quality of awareness or any one of those elements that we spoke about. Let's put up that image so that we can talk about it as a trance. Anyone feel like sharing? And
I was,
5D people will be familiar. Was that you, Sydney?
no, Melody. I'm Melody, and I
Where
just
you?
said, but
I can't find you. Oh, there you are. Yes,
Here?
Melody, please.
just briefly, I don't know whether I'm doing this right at all, but I'm
Yeah.
a 2, and what happens when I feel that someone judges me, excludes me, dismisses me, I go kind of crazy internally, and I
Mhm.
came up with this image that it's like I'm a wire, an electrical wire with a current inside of me that just goes, but it's like it's in the water. And where I went to with that, because it doesn't stop, because it keeps transmitting through the water. And then where I went to with that with Rasheen was, I mean, maybe what happens if somebody jumps in the water, they're going to get hurt, because, you know, my energy is going to hurt them, which has happened a lot. But I don't know whether I'm doing this right, but that's what came up for me. And it's depressing as all get out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. When we go into our type and its impact, and when we get triggered into that automatic behavior, there's always a time of reckoning with the impact. I mean, Enneagram's an ethical system. It does confront us with our impact.
Yeah.
So, but coming back to your metaphor, it's a really powerful metaphor that you feel internally like electricity in water. Like that's
Yeah.
an
I feel-
electrical.
Yeah, there's no end to it. It's just, you know, it's not that I feel so anxious. There's this force
Yeah.
that, and so I thought going into the water, it wouldn't, in a way, it doesn't stop.
Not going to stop.
Yeah.
Well, that's super interesting, because then what I'm hearing there is that it's unbounded. So the intensity of the electricity hasn't got an edge. It hasn't, it just goes out.
Yeah. I think that's so.
That's very, very helpful for me as a learning, as an insight. Thank you very much for sharing that. Because I bet for another type, there's a very different sense of where the trouble is. So I'm hearing for you, the trouble is, boom, there's an impact horizon of this thing. And so
It's like I can't control it.
Yes, it's got no end. It's not within your boundaries. It's not within your control. It's on the loose almost.
Yes. And yet, I don't know whether this helps anyone. I feel, even though like that it's, there's this feeling to it rather than this feeling, it's this feeling.
Tell me about that. Like if you are
Like it's
to
probably
describe that feeling.
maybe that this current could just completely destroy me. I mean, that this is over the top, but in a way,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess it feels like it could
Like
completely
this.
destroy me. Yeah. And I do this with that, like trying to write things, you know, so the energy is expansive. It feels like it's going to eat me up. And so in response, I'm seeking to make it right, or to make sure that I'm seen as okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, it's really hard to admit this, and it's the truth.
But look at how insightful it is to recognize the triggering that spreads out like that. The intensity of this is going to kill me and I better make it right. And then going out into this field to try and fix it and make it right so that it doesn't destroy you, if I'm joining the dots right.
I think you're right. I think that's right.
So that's incredibly powerful and insightful. And if you were to give this current a name, is it possible to give it a name?
You mean like and like well, desperate is all I can come up with. There's this desperation. Okay. It's life or death.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I think that's what's so helpful when we do this work, is that we recognize that it is life or death in that moment. It feels life or death. When we were 6 weeks old or 3 months old or 4 months old or 1, it was life or death. And that's in our nervous system, that if we left out and ignored and excluded as a 6-week-old, it feels like life or death. Where's the love? It's that intense. So that life or death intensity is here and now with us. That prediction that kicks in of that small thing, it might be something objectively small. You're not really being rejected. Maybe something happened, and but in your experience, it's life or death. And your prediction based on your early learning is you're going to die. And the life or death current kicks in. You speak about it as a current, and there's a desperation. There's I've got to fix it. So, and then that compulsive behavior kicks in, or fixing is what I'm hearing.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So then, like, if we say the trance is desperate current, and it's got a visual field, it's got sensations, it's got a posture, then we start getting to know this trance is, now I'm going into my trance. And that's particularly helpful, is to notice when we're going into our trance state, when we're getting caught in the trance of our type, when we're actually losing contact with the here and now. We're not open to finding out what's really going on. Where our brain is saying, danger, do the thing. Danger, do the type. Because we've predicted that it's a life or death event. And that's what's wired into us from very, very early. And events that we don't remember, they tacit. Subtle misattunement every single day. And we can't even say, no, I had a great childhood. There was some kind of subtle misattunement every single day that led to us needing a certain defensive strategy. And that's how this work is really helpful. So I'm really grateful that you shared that. And I'm just wondering, for the sake of kind of shifting state, if you go into that posture now, put yourself in that desperate current, what allows you to shift state into a more resourced state? What do you have in your immediate environment, or something that you can bring to mind or contact that eases that state of desperate current? It might be finding a certain part of your body that feels more at ease. It might be something right in front of you that makes you feel good.
Well, I do, like I'm working right now on a collage, and, I like to just do things. I keep things around all the time, and I'm just
beautiful.
But just it helps me not think and look at something that's beautiful or makes, and it's not, I'm not an artist, but that's what I do.
So lovely. So collage is a gift. So fantastic. Sam here is a soul collage facilitator. I do collage every day. So can you take that collage and hold it to yourself? Hold it so that you can see it. So turn it so you can see it, and find something in that collage that feels soothing, resourcing, easing.
I got it right away. I know.
Can you tell us about that?
It's this gorgeous blue, this beautiful blue that's right at the center. I mean, it's just
that's lovely.
But that color and the fact, that it isn't, it's just beautiful. And
Okay, so
yeah.
if you look at it, and if you really bring your awareness to that blue color that found its way onto your collage, that chose to be there, and really appreciate that it's got more to tell you than you maybe realized at first. And that a part of you chose it that knows that feeling. Can you connect with the feeling in yourself associated with that blue now?
Yeah, I mean,
Can-
very, very calm, very.
Can you describe it in detail? Like, where is it? What is its texture?
You mean this or within me?
Within you, the part of
Oh.
you that knows that color and probably unconsciously chose it.
Yeah. Saturate, vibrant, strong, bold, not totally imperfect and fabulous in imperfection in a way. It's not supposed to be rigid or at the core, messy, but absolutely perfect.
Wow. Wow. Okay, I'm going to
That's
read.
That's the color. That's not
Yes.
me. That's but like, yeah, if I could get to that, forget the trance.
Okay. So I'm going to invite you. I'm going to read those words back to you. And I'm going to invite you to find any part of yourself that is familiar with these words on the inside, internally. Just a part somewhere in you, and maybe you want to bring to mind a time when you felt these things. So I'm going to read you back your words. So saturate, is that right? Like saturated, vibrant, fabulously imperfect, at the core, absolutely perfect. So just stay with those words for a moment, and maybe those qualities, if you can almost hold them in with the gesture, if there's a gesture for you of holding those qualities inside.
I'm getting pretty emotional here,
Yeah, there's no need to apologize for emotions. All emotions are welcome. And you said something, you said, if I can get that, forget the trance.
Yeah, if I could come to this part of me, there would be no trance.
That's it. Thank you. That's exactly it. That's really the message, is that when we are in a state of feeling resourced, using the resource that's there for us, we don't need the trance. Because right now, in this moment, us together having this conversation, connecting with your resource, connecting with all it's got for you, and you created that resource, that there's something else available. You don't have to go into your trance. And I would guess that as you sit here relating to this quality internally and there mirrored, that the trance looks kind of very unfamiliar. It's like, why would I even go there?
Right.
I see you nodding. Will you tell me
Yeah.
about that?
Well, why would I leave that if that's why would I leave that power and beauty and richness and phenomenal imperfection, but this sort of chaotic creative potential, and go into that's such a waste. It would feel like such an incredible waste to leave something so full of possibility and potential.
Wow. So what you're saying, the words that you're using are reminding me of the line to 4 from 2, which is holy origin. Holy origin is creative potential itself. All things arise from holy origin. So for me, you are describing your access to holy origin, and you are describing how much you love holy origin. If I bring an Enneagram lens, if you hear about holy origin, at the core, absolutely perfect, power, beauty, richness, chaotic creative potential, all of this potential that arises from this beauty. And you asked, why would I leave that? So almost for me, the message is, why would I leave holy origin and go out fixing in the electricity, go out and fix in the desperate current? No, I'll come back there to the core. So for me, that's my kind of Enneagram sense of what you're connecting with. That's very different to the trance of your type.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
yeah.
My best friend is a 4, and she drives me absolutely crazy because I think she's so self-indulgent. And I keep thinking I've got to get more, but not that quality where it's all about me, but it's going in, that's for her, it's all about her.
Yeah.
Or a lot about her. She's
Yeah.
my best friend for 30 years. And but I resist that because it feels so
Yes.
self-centered.
Yes. It's the opposite to what your type strategy, you were trained to never ever have needs, right?
Right. And I followed a Down syndrome sister. And
Yeah.
so I was supposed to take care of everybody else, but especially my sister, who is really
Yeah.
needy, had a lot of needs, not needy.
Yeah, yeah. And I've
So,
worked with a number of twos who had that, a very sick sibling or a sick relative they had to look after. So it's a very adaptive strategy. But yes, the cost of leaving yourself, leaving holy origin. And the other Enneagram point I wanted to really emphasize is that when we go down the line, we're going to the highest quality of that type. So when you go to 4, you'll go to equanimity, which is there's no desperation, there's balance, there's equanimity. I notice my feelings. And holy origin is this, all the things you've described. So we don't say, oh, I want to be more like that level 6 type of 8 or whatever. I want the innocence of 8. I want holy truth of 8. So really, really understanding that you have access to those gifts. So this is a process that we can do with ourselves to recognize the trance of type, but then when we're not in the trance, then what? So Melody, before we kind of come to a close on the process between us, and I'd just like to hear from you how you are now, having gone through that process. How do you feel?
I feel grateful for this, a little definitely embarrassed, and that I've taken up too much time, probably. I feel grateful, and I feel like I have something to work with, especially that I just showed you this and visually, and not knowing why this center, I'm layering and layering and layering, but I'm not touching the center.
Oh, wow. That's a powerful process metaphor in itself, right?
Yeah. So I've
the center.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And there's a beautiful soul collage question, Sam. I've done soul collage processes with Sam, and they're so exquisite. And we let the image talk in its own voice, and we let its answer talk to us by saying, I am one who, ... So I would invite you to spend time with this image later and let it speak to you, first person. I am one who. And there's another question that comes after this. I think, Sam, you can help me with the exact words. I want you to know that. Let this color tell you I want you to know that, because you're going to get a whole lot more from it. Sam, can you tell us how that question goes?
Well, yeah, you've got scope once you've asked the car, once you've asked your image to introduce itself to you and tell you who it is. I am one who, and it might have loads to say, and it might just have something very, very short and clear to say. But beyond that, you can ask it more things. You can ask it, why did you come to, why did you come? What do you want me, Melody, to know? What's your gift for me, Melody, today? How can I remember you in my daily life? It will tell you things.
Thank you so much for this.
Thank you so much. I think it was initially you were sharing, and I didn't explicitly ask you permission to go deeper with the process, but I'm so very grateful that you did, and the hearts are coming, and I think everyone here is super grateful to you for sharing. And you most definitely didn't take up too much time. If we could, it would be another at least half an hour exploring your experience.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Really appreciate it, Melody. Thanks so much for offering us that gift of your experience. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So for everyone here who's learning about the trance of type, the invitation for you is to do something similar for yourself, to see, this is the trance of my type. This is what it looks like. My mind does this, my body does this, my jaw does this, whatever it is when I'm triggered. Then I'm fully in the trance of my type. I'm selectively aware. I'm partially responsive. I only have a narrow range of options available to me. I've only got fight, flight, freeze available. I don't really have anything else available. Because I'm narrowly focused, I'm narrowly predicting life or death, and I've only got like that much. And when we get out of the trance of our type, through resourcing, through nervous system regulation, through finding a resource, I've got this beautiful candle that this wonderful Hawaiian shaman gave me, and it just is such a support to find something that resources you, whether it's your cat or a pot plant or a breathing exercise, whatever it is that helps you to find inner coherence, to come back home to the part of yourself. So Melody, by beautiful holy plan, happened to have her collage right in front of her, and soul collage is one of the most exquisite modalities to tap into this unconscious wisdom that's just waiting to speak to us. I know Don also does soul collage. It's a really exquisite modality. I highly recommend exploring it. So let's see, we've got 10 minutes left. I just want to see if there's any other content. I promised Fiona I would look at the thing of just how do we work with it. So you did get a little sense of how to work with it, is validating the trance. It's like, okay, well, we're not trying to get rid of it. We're not criticizing it. We're just finding what else is available. What else is there? What else is at hand? What other things can we use? But what you will notice with all the types, suggestibility to particular associations, disassociation, time distortions. Like you'll know some of you will have a type that I've got to fix it now. Like if you have conflict, maybe as a 6, I've got to fix it now, I've got to fix it now. You just happen to be in a relationship with a 5 where that's not going to work. They need to go away and process and think and spend time. And you have to say to them, can we speak tomorrow at 3 o'clock? And they want to process and prepare and know when it's going to be. Chasing them into a corner and saying, we've got to talk about it now, or with the 9, it doesn't work. So your time distortion of this has to happen in the next 10 seconds is a distortion. It can happen in the next day or 2. You're not going to die if you don't fix it right now. And some of the emotional realness types really struggle with that. So those are some of the features of trance, the automatic responses, and it masks things. So in this case, it was a debrief I did the other day with somebody. And in the debrief, she was talking about she's happy, she's very, very spiritual. She goes and does these rituals in the forest and this and this and that. And this is her strain profile. She's not happy and she's actually stressed and she's physically not doing well. But the 7 is masking it out. The 1 probably answered the rest of the test in the way she should. And the 3 is showing up for the session with me, trying to tell me what I want to hear. So maybe she picks up that I'm interested in spirituality and now she presents a certain image. So the trance also tunes things out from the self. And it's very much a nervous system state. I spoke about fight or flight. There's freeze and the collapse state. So in our trance, we're going to go into a state where pretty much everything changes in our body. So working with CYBAM is this model here, and I use it a lot, and I train it in the 5D trauma-informed coaching course, is what is it like to be in our triggered state? What is it like to be in an integrated, self-regulated state where we can see, I was there this morning and now I'm here, and that state passes, and this is what this feels like. So we develop an inner coherency that allows us to be more flexible. But it's very important not to pathologize the state. And the way that we do not pathologize is to appreciate this was the perfect strategy for your particular holding environment according to the particular deficits. And I don't need to know anything about the story. I'm not taking your brain to talking through the story and bringing back those feelings. We're looking at what is the state and what is the state when we're here and now resourced in our adult mode together, and what's available to us. So then you experience the things that go with that. This is just showing the triggered state at 6. Then you start experiencing this. Daniel Siegel uses acronyms all the time, and this is one of his acronyms, FACES. Flexible, adaptable, coherent, energized, and stable. When we are in our resourced state, when the trance is kind of broken, look at the words that Melody used. They're just so incredible. And as we hear them, we kind of, I don't know, that was my experience, Melody. When you were saying your words, I felt myself filling up with aliveness and joy and appreciation. So that's, what arises when we are not in our trance. We start experiencing the high end of our type. So I don't know if any of these words resonate with you, that when I'm out of my trance, this is this looks true, or it look, I've had a moment of this here and there where my trance hasn't been running the show. And you can also look down your line of integration, the qualities that we have access to when the trance is broken a little bit. So I hope I answered your question, Fiona, because we're coming to an end now.
That does help. Thank you, Ingrid.
Good. And then the other things, you can work with metaphor. Like with one of my clients, she came to see me and she said, no, I need coaching. I'm totally stuck. I'm just stuck in a rut. And she'll start going into the story of why she's in a rut and she's been there. So, okay, so let's go back to the metaphor of stuck in the rut. What does it feel like? How deep is the rut? How are you stuck? Are you on foot? Or are you in a car? So like really taking her mind out of the story into this metaphor of stuck in a rut. And that brought her into a relationship with me in the here and now, not a story about her life and her husband and her boss. Like right now, we're talking about stuck in a rut. What does it feel like? Okay, I'm in a car. How are your hands on the wheel? No, they're clenching the wheel. And my breath, I'm worried. So I say, okay, now, if you are stuck in a rut in your car, if that were true, then what would you do right now? And she's like, oh, no, I'd pick up the phone. I'd phone, she had a whole lot of resources for getting out of a rut. And she, at the beginning of the session, she said to me, I'm worried I'm going to be stuck in this rut forever. So then we start joking with the metaphor. So would you stay stuck in this car in the rut forever or for 2 years? She said, no way. And so we started identifying what the resources are. What is the tow truck? What is the 0800? How does the coaching fit in terms of getting out of the rut? Maybe I'm the guy from the AA that comes and attaches the rope or whatever. So working with metaphor to break frame. Now suddenly she's not in the story of what a loser she is. Now she's like, okay, I'm getting out of this rut. I'm not sitting here for 2 years saying I'm stuck. No, I'm doing stuff. So her agency kicked in very quickly. And she's starting now to see possibilities. No, it's a very short-term intervention. Another client repurposed this inner critic that was looking at him like this, standing in front of him, looking at him like, you're going to fuck this up, guaranteed. And we had a conversation with this inner critic and said, what are you worried would happen if you didn't do this job? What are you preventing? When do you know it's time to kick in and take over? And then the question from IFS, what would it take for you to take an afternoon off? And this part said, trust yourself. The part wanted him to trust himself more. And eventually at the end of the process, the client said he's going to ask this critic to come and stand next to him as an ally and a mentor, rather than someone standing in front of him looking at him like he's an idiot. So when we asked this other part, would you be comfortable, instead of standing in front of me, coming and standing alongside me as a support, as an ally? The part says, your wish is my command. So this part got repurposed very quickly in one session. So these are the kinds of things you can do to work creatively with the client. So we didn't try and get rid of the inner critic. We spoke to the inner critic and we had a negotiation. We said, thank you so much for making sure I don't screw up. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And then gradually got him to come stand over here. So this is how we get out of these trances. Some of the techniques, there are lots of techniques and tools. But to be here in the moment, find resources. So for me, these little Thich Nhat Hanh things are so helpful. Coming back here, getting out of the shattered mind, telling myself, breathing in, I'm breathing in. Right now, I'm breathing in. Oh, soles of feet. Just very basic resources that can bring oneself back to the present moment. So that, there's more, but I'm not going to go into it now because we're out of time. But I'm happy to stay for a little bit extra for anyone who's got some questions or wants to share. If you can, maybe put a comment in the chat what you're taking away. But I'm going to stop the recording, and then anybody who wants to stay and chat and talk about their trance and getting out of it, you're welcome to do that. I'm going to stay for another 30 minutes. So thank you so much for being here, and hope to see you at the next one.